Sis came to my office this morning before we came out here, and she was telling me some things that happened this past week, and apparently I took my preacher's face, my pastor's face off, and I was listening and everything, and I was just thinking about what to say and how to handle this particular situation. But apparently I gave off a look. And by any means, I don't think anyone's crazy. All right? I don't think anything is too far-fetched when it comes to the kingdom of God and with Satan. Now, with that being said, if you ever see me give you that kind of look, trust me, it wasn't meant the way it looked, okay? So I started this a long time ago whenever I was a youth pastor, and technology came out. And believe it or not, even back then, it was a craze that just went absolutely out there. But a lot of my youth would communicate through, I don't know if it was even Facebook back then, but right now it's Facebook. So that's where I go to try to get a feeling of where y'all are. Because as far as I know, most people are on Facebook. So I went to Facebook this morning, and I wasn't spying or anything like that. I just like to try to capture what's going on with some of y'all. And I came across this posting. And it was kind of early this morning, so here's what it says. I love being around people who lift me to a new level. They don't pull me back to the old ones. Now listen to this. I love being around people who lift me up to a new level. They don't pull me back to the old ones. I mean, don't y'all love being around people that lift you up? Yes. But some people, all they like to hear is praise to themselves. They love compliments. They love for people to lift them up. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what I'm saying is, let's try getting off ourselves and getting off to someone else and try to lift someone else up. We're really good at lifting ourselves up or tearing ourselves down. But let's just focus on just lifting other people up. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't take that much more energy. Again, sometimes all it costs is a smile, handshake, old Baptist hug. It don't matter. All right, that is not my sermon tonight or today. But I just wanted to bring that out because I'm watching y'all on Facebook. And if you don't want me to say anything negative, don't post anything negative. All right, the title of the sermon this morning is In This Moment. We're going to start with a very familiar story. It's in Mark chapter 10. It's going to be verses 46 through 52, although we probably won't read all of those, but I do want to hit the highlight ones that draws my point through. It says, Then they came to Jericho. As Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And listen to how the crowd reacted. His own people, his own disciples, many rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. And then this is how Jesus replies in verse 51. What do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked him. And then the blind man said, Rabbi, I want to see. Then Jesus, go, said Jesus, your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus. Now, before we elaborate and expand on that story, I want to go to another one right beside it. It's in Luke chapter 19. Now, Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector, and he was very wealthy. And as we go on to read the story, we find out that Jesus acknowledges him, not because he's rich, not because he's a tax collector and he might be in trouble. He did the same thing in the story right before, and that guy was poor. So God has no limit. Jesus doesn't care if you're rich, poor, blind, or you have 20/20 vision. All he cares about is being in the moment. Making sure that in that moment you're special. Jesus is never too busy for people in need. Now let's remember this as Christians. All right? Most of us can remember the 10 Commandments. Forward, backwards. Some of us know John 3:16, John 3:10, Philippians 4:19. We've got all these kind of scriptures that we can remember. But if you can just learn and remember this, in the moment, make them feel special. Why do you think people come to you? To be ignored, to be hated, to be talked about? People come to you because they have confidence in two things. You as a person, and they feel the confidence that, you know what, whatever I say to this person, they're going to hear me. They're going to listen to me. Now, granted, most people don't care what you have to say. They just want you to acknowledge them and listen to what they have to say. Because they've already solved the problem in their mind. All right? Now listen to this. They've already solved the problem in their mind. So why do they need someone like me or you to put a God twist on it? Well, when you look at these two guys, again, one was poor, one was rich. They came to Jesus. They both had a need. And when they left, we had a miracle. Then we had another miracle. My question to you is, what miracle are you going to leave with Jesus? Well, let's look at it this way. You ever been to Walmart? This is why I want to see your hand. Anybody haven't been to Walmart? Okay, that's even better. So y'all don't even have to raise your hand. Now, granted, last week I told you that I have your attention span for about 7 minutes. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. 9 people. 10, 11. That is 77 minutes. That's that's an hour and 17 minutes I can preach to y'all. But if you could gather all your attention and just listen to me 7 minutes, we'll be out of here in 10 minutes. All right? Or if you want to expand my knowledge of this, then keep dropping in and out, because I got 7 minutes for you, 7 minutes for you, so forth. So we can be here a long time. We'll even miss the big crowd at lunch, because you're going to be so late that they've already got there and eaten. But what I'm telling you is, listen to me for 7 minutes, people, and then we're out of here. All right, listen to God for 7 minutes. Me and John's got this thing, 3%. 3%, people. In this moment, Jesus always found time for the people that needed him the most. Now, he had obligations. He had other people that he was going to see. But you've got to understand, on his way to this place, Jericho, he found time for a beggar. Now, listen to this. This would be us like going, I don't know, let's go to high school, and then let's go to a company banquet, and whatever scenario you want to inject yourself into. But let's just say you're going to prom. You got a hot date beside you. You got a hot dance to go to. You got a great meal that you're going to go to, restaurant, whatever. How many of you will stop at someone underneath the underpass and take time to talk to them, pray with them, or even go back to McDonald's and buy them a meal? Not very many. But I can see Jesus doing that. I can just see Jesus, man, he's already got a hot obligation that he's going to. I mean, many of people are waiting for him. Can't wait to dance with them. Can't wait to eat with them. But what Jesus does is he says, you know what? Y'all are important, but there's time for you. Right now, this person needs me more than you. Sometimes we forget that that's what we need to do. We need to make sure that people that are right in front of us that really truly need us, they have our undivided attention. I know we got a car note this week due. I know you got a house note that's due. I know the light bill is extremely high this month. That will take care of itself. This person needs you now. This person needs God now. All right? The bills aren't going anywhere. On the 30th, if that's what it's due, it's going to be there on the 30th. But today, someone needs you. Someone's asking for you. Jesus always saw that opportunity. He always took it. He had time for rich people. Chief tax collector. This wasn't a city like Silsbee or Coons. This was Jericho. You know, the famous place. Walls came tumbling down. This was a well-known city. For Jesus to stop what he was doing and associate with the beggar where everybody else wanted to rebuke him, even his own disciples, that speaks loudly, and that's the kind of person I want to be. I want to be so sensitive to people whenever they need me. All right? But you got to watch it. People will take advantage of that. All right? People will come to you with the same problem time and time again. They don't really care what you have to say. They just want you to listen. Because if you do give them advice, they're going to do whatever they want anyways. I learned that many times ago because people would come to my dad. And my dad, honestly, how can I say this? He didn't cut you any slack. All right? If the situation was black, hey, situation's black. If it was white, situation was white. You can take it, or you can not listen to me and leave it here. But I'm telling you, this is how God will handle this. And once you said, hey, this is how God in His Word says to handle this, a lot of times they stop listening. Because again, they had it in their mind on how they were going to handle it. And if God differed any way whatsoever, they stopped listening. I'm raising both hands here. And if I could keep my balance, I would probably raise 3 and 4. If I'm in trouble, I got myself in trouble. If I truly want to get out of it, I got to get God involved. Because what I'll do is I'll try to fix it, and it will seem like I fixed it. But give me another month or so, it's going to break down. It just will. Now, I told you I just want 10 minutes. I got about 3.5 left. All right? So I still got your attention. What's the alternative? We'll be here to 12:30 if y'all don't listen to me for the next 3.5 minutes. Okay? We've got to start making time for people. Well, Pastor, I've got my own problems. Let me ask you something. If you have problems now, you probably had it yesterday. And some problems you had the day before, or maybe even a week ago. The problem's not solved. All right? You still got problems. Problem's not going anywhere until you really want to deal with it. So just try this. Try helping someone else instead of yourself. Get your mind off your problems and try focusing on someone else's. Might help. I mean, you don't think Jesus had problems? I mean, he had to be in the city. He had a 12:30 appointment. He had to be out of there by 1:15 so he could make his 1:30 appointment. And then he had to go visit with some sick people. And he had to 2:30 and all that. But you know what? Forget that agenda. You know what? This beggar needs me now. And he needs my full divided attention. He doesn't need my mind to be thinking about what's my next appointment or what's my next obligation. So if you're going to commit to someone, make sure that you're not thinking about your cell phone, your bills, or anything like that. If you're going to help someone, focus on helping them. All right? We make so many mistakes whenever we truly do want to help people. I really think that this church wants to help people beyond what other people think and understand. But we get so focused on our own problems and our own situations that we don't even really listen to what the real problem is for that someone else. And it may just be a simple fact of just listening. God forbid if it costs money and more time. The Bible. Wonderful thing. Man, if I told you, you know what, you needed to read this 5 minutes a day, I don't think anybody in here would have a problem with that. Not at all. Not at all. But what if the pastor came back the very next Sunday and said, hey, y'all are going to go through something. And I'm telling you, if you don't spend an hour and 30 minutes a day reading the Word of God, it could be devastating to your life. And everybody's, okay, Pastor, whatever. All right? But let's just suppose you're okay. But you just found out someone in your family's got cancer. Okay, Pastor, an hour and 30 minutes. I might raise it up to 15, 20 minutes. But I guarantee you this side over here will spend that and probably another hour or two praying. because it's hitting at home. It's hitting them personally. And that's where churches have disconnect, because it's not hitting me personally, because I'm not feeling the sickness. I'm not feeling the anguish. I'm not feeling all that. It's just drive-by to me. But the people that's actually going through that, that's their life. That is their life. That is their mental health. That is their next breath. That is their child. That is their husband. That is their wife. That is everything that means anything to them. Yes, they're going to spend all the time they can with God. And don't us people that are just drive-by thinking, you know what, I'll just spend 15 or 20 minutes extra praying. That's great, but you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. I want someone that's going to be there for me when I need you the most. Jesus was always there. Of course, he didn't have time at the time to stop and help the beggar and heal the beggar, but because he did, and he set everything aside, the guy can see. Just think what God can use you. And somehow the churches think that, you know what? We will never be able to heal the sick, cast out the demons, raise the dead. That was for back then. That was for Jesus. He said he left it for us. I don't know how else to get around that scripture. He left it for us. And all I can deduce from that is I have the authority. Whether I take that, that's on me. But I guarantee you, that will come to mind whenever my child is sick, or I've got someone in my family dying, or I've got one of you dying. I guarantee you I'm going to hit the scriptures there and I'm going to claim that. But you know what? When I had the opportunity to claim it when I was in the valley, it's one thing. But whenever I'm on the mountaintop and I have the ability and I ignore it, guess what? Maybe I cried wolf one too many times. I was thinking when Angie was doing her ministry, and sis, when you were doing your ministry, and I'm not one that focuses on dreams and stuff. To me, dreams are just dreams sometimes. Yes, they have a deep connection to me sometimes, but I don't steer my life around that. But I do have dreams, and I do have thoughts that I have, daydreams, whatever you want to call it, where, Angie, I see you in a huge auditorium, and I see you on this stage, and the floor on the stage is, this is not a prophecy or anything like that. I'm telling you, this is just a thought, okay? But this is the way I think about you all right? And the floor is like glass, and it's shiny and everything like that. And you've got this yellow dress on, and everybody is focused on you. And I just see people raising their hands and praising God and all that. And then I see almost something similar with Sis and her music. But hers is one step different. And that's for the fact, as she's singing, she goes down and starts praying for people. Now see, those are great, especially if that's your ministry and that's your ministry. Oh my God, wouldn't you love to be in a huge auditorium and be set up like that? To be able to touch that many people. And you get excited. And everything like that. And then I immediately think, you know what? Now instead of that huge stage that you're on, now you're in a small country church. And you only have 3 or 4 people. But your job is just as important with those 3 or 4 as with those thousands of people. So I started thinking, all right, this is one day in the future. It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, Or it could be like David. It could be 40 years from now. It could be like the children of Israel. It could be 40 years from now. But it's going to happen. Be faithful with few. Be satisfied with what God has given you today. I'm happy with what God's given you. I'm happy with what's God given you. I'm happy with God's given all of you. Did you ever notice that, you know what? I'm on backstage and I'm getting ready to come and preach after you, or I'm ready to preach before or after you perform or whatever. No, I'm nowhere in the picture. So that's how I know that this is, without sounding like I'm bragging, it's not about me. It's about how are y'all going to grow with the Lord. It's wonderful to be with y'all. All right. Tim makes me laugh. Even whenever he's not feeling like he's making me laugh. He makes me laugh. Because you know what? Sometimes I want to show up to church in flip-flops. Absolutely. Sometimes I want to wear my necklaces and my rings and stuff. Sometimes I want to show up like Paul, no sleeves on. He's comfortable, not embarrassed. I'm not embarrassed for him. He's here. There's a lot we can learn in here. I know it gets boring sometimes. You got the Old Testament, and then over here you got the New Testament. Man, which one do I go to? I don't care which one you go to. Just go somewhere. God will handle the rest. In order for you to go from Silsbee to Beaumont faster, all right, I know there's motorcycles, but for my illustration, all right, you got to get in the car first. All right? And then the next thing you have to do is you have to get to Beaumont. But this is what we do. We get in the car. Before you know it, we're in Beaumont. None of us enjoyed the ride between. No one enjoyed, I don't know, 3 or 4 bridges before you get into Lumberton. No one enjoys the thousands of stops you have to make now in Lumberton. Enjoy the ride. Take your time like Jesus did. If you need to stop and help someone along the way, stop and help someone. Please, y'all stand. 4.5 minutes. Sorry, guys. It's still better than 77 minutes.
No, I gave you 77.
That's great.
7 times 7.
Yes, absolutely. So today, I don't know if you plan on spending time with your family. How many plans on spending time with their family? Really, let me see your hand. Okay. Let's try something new. I've challenged you to this before and everything like that. Let's try to take self out of it. So Angie, don't be Angie. BW, don't be BW. Chris, don't be Chris. Paul, don't be Paul. Try to understand and put yourself in whoever you're with. I think we get lost in ourselves so much that we forget how other people deal with things. Absolutely guilty. Absolutely. I think everybody is guilty or can relate to this. We're so involved in ourselves that we forget about other people. They could be standing right in front of you. They could even hold a conversation with you. And I can ask you 5 minutes, what'd y'all talk about? Oh, I don't know. He was just jabbering. Or she was just jabbering. And I used to think that was kind of funny because my wife would say, you know, what were y'all talking about? I don't know. I heard, but I wasn't listening. And I thought, well, what if people did that to me? What if I really had a problem and I went to this person? But because so many times I went with them with problems or concerns in my life, this time I really needed them. But because I went so many times before, just because I wanted to be heard, this time I wasn't. What if I went so many times because my big toe was hurting or I had a headache? Now I go and ask for prayer and people don't want to pray for me. Now if you're Christian, you shouldn't feel that. Hey, were you the boy that cried wolf one too many times? Really, was a big toe hurting a life-changing event? Well, I'm supposed to be able to go, okay, there you go. Go to God. You deal with that kind of problem by yourself. That's what we want. We want everybody else to solve our problems, but you know, whenever they give their opinion or whatever they feel God is leading them to direct you to, I don't agree with that, so it must not be of God. You didn't come here to hear my voice. You didn't come here except to hear what God has to say. Let me tell you what God told me. Robert, quit making it about yourself. This ministry is not about you, and you know what? It's not even about your congregation. It's about me living in you. And if that's a requirement for God and me, then it's a requirement to God for you.